Welcome to a conversation with Patrece. I am Patrece. Hello. This is where we talk about life, leadership, identity. I love that one. Stewardship, one of my favorites. And sometimes just simply what needs to be said. So come in, have a seat, sit down, let's talk. There's something I've really been thinking about. Sometimes we keep asking Yah to tell us when something is over. When, if we're truthful, we already know. We know. We knew when the grace for it changed. We knew when what once fit us started requiring us to shrink ourselves just to remain in it. We knew when we started having to work harder to maintain something than we were being called to work to build it. And I think sometimes what we're calling confusion even isn't confusion at all, right? So sometimes we just act like what clarity is requiring of us. And what we find is that we just don't like what it's bringing to the table. We don't like what it's showing us. Because endings require something. You, they require us to acknowledge that something can have been right for one season and still be wrong for the next one. And sometimes that's difficult because, we have a tendency to think that if Yah was in something when it began, he must intend for it to remain exactly as it was forever. But that's not how seasons work. Think about it. A seed doesn't betray the seed when it becomes a tree, does it? No. The tree is evidence that the seed fulfilled its assignment. And I wonder how many things were in that space that we're trying to preserve that have actually already fulfilled their assignment in our lives. Think about it. Relationships, your way of thinking, ways of doing business, the routines, and especially our expectations. Oh, and this one, even versions of ourselves. And that's so important because I don't believe every ending requires a fight. And I don't believe that everything that ends requires somebody to be wrong. And I don't believe you have to destroy the value of what was in order to acknowledge what is. Lean into that. Sometimes the enemy really want you to take that route. Sometimes the season just simply changed and that's it. And there is wisdom in being able to recognize that. You know, we understand this everywhere else in life. And there is a time for planting. We all know the scripture in Ecclesiastes. There's a season, there's a time for growth, there's a time for harvest, there's a time when the ground itself has rest. But we don't stand over a field demanding that it produce the same thing every season. But we'll do that to ourselves. We'll do it to relationships. Ooh, that's good. We'll do it to businesses, right? We'll do it to assignments. We'll keep trying to pull fruit out of something because it produced it before. And That's the conversation today that somebody needs. Not how do I make this work again? Maybe the conversation is, has this already done what it came into my life to do? And that's a different question. Because when you ask that question, you stop measuring everything by whether it lasted. Some things are successful because they lasted. And then, there are some things that are successful because they finished. Listen to that. And there is where the difference lies. I share with you, I've reached a place in my own life where I don't want to hold something beyond its assignment simply because I have history with it. History deserves honor, yes, but history doesn't automatically take authority over what's next, your future. And especially and definitely about what the Most High speaks. And I think there are seasons when Yah begins to call us into examination. And it's not condemnation because the enemy wants to keep you there. No, seasons where he wants you to examination. What still belongs, what no longer fits. What am I carrying because I've been assigned to carry it? And what am I carrying simply because I've become accustomed to its weight? It's time to release that. Those are not the same thing. And when you are approaching a new season, that discernment matters because you don't want to enter what is next carrying everything from what was. Some things have to remain where they completed their assignment. Some people got to remain there. Expectations have to remain there. There's some of those. Some habits have to remain there. And guess what? Sometimes even the version of you that survived that season has to remain there. Why? Because that woman, that man who survived it may not be the same woman or man that's assigned to build what's next. So maybe today isn't about making a big decision. Maybe it's simply about becoming willing to tell yourself the truth. Is this still alive? Is there still grace for this? Ask yourself, am I being called really to cultivate this? Or am I simply afraid to release it? Lean into that. Sit with that. You don't have to announce everything that you recognize. Just lean into it and embrace it. You don't have to explain every shift either. You don't have to make everybody understand what Yah is showing you. Sometimes recognition comes before movement, and sometimes the most powerful thing you can do when you recognize this and recognize that that season has changed is stop pretending that it hasn't. So before you go, remember this right here. If it's something that I can leave with you today, is that some conversations give you answers. Others give you something to think about. So take what spoke to you, lean in and sit with it, and let it do what it came to do. So I leave you with this. Seriously, keep living in truth. Keep walking in intention and with intention. And I'll meet you right back here for a conversation with Patrece.